This is James Athayanchik, the Black Knight of Talk Radio, inviting you to join me on a road to truth via the path of non-contradiction. Join us each week on Feet to the Fire, a show with the goals of examining a subject matter on its own merits and test how it stands up to the many possibilities found in reality. All without pre-drawn conclusions found in personal bias. No left or right wings here. No pounding the pulpit of ego-driven my way or the highway attitudes. But there are no free passes given either. Answers to questions are important, but equally important is the reasons and methods used to find the answer. The lack of contradiction is the final judge here on Feet to the Fire. Feet. Sunday evenings. To the... How do you listen? Fire. Check out feettothefireradio.com. Now broadcasting live with archives kept in HD video on our YouTube channel and with high-quality audio only at Spreaker.com. The views expressed in the following show are of the host, the guest, and the callers. The content of the following show, its accuracy, authenticity, and the ramifications of the use or application of said content is the responsibility of those speaking and listening, not the broadcast medium. We're back and we're live, Feet to the Fire. I'm your host, James Athayanchik, the Black Knight of Talk Radio. And we have a crypto show for you today. Yeah, I know. Cryptos are very fascinating to some people and are completely irrelevant and boring to others. And there's other people who don't understand them, don't want to. But, you know, this is a show that does a bunch of stuff. And some days you're going to like it, some days you're not. And it depends on who's listening at the moment and what they like. We'll find out about that. But it is December 10th, 2017. It is live, Feet to the Fire. We are coming up less than a month away from our 15th anniversary, entering our 16th year of doing this. Wow. You know, I don't know what to say. I started back when... I think the first thing was on Live 365, and then went on to various internet radio stations, then satellite distribution, IBC Radio Network, and when that fell apart, it went out on my own. Here we've been, and now live on YouTube for what it's worth. Anyway, today we have a guest, probably bottom of the hour or so. Mr. Rowe is his name. And he's going to go and talk about cryptocurrencies. I called into his show when he was on Revolution Radio, and we talked about it. And I liked his style, very knowledgeable and very good to explain things. You know, I figured he's a perfect guy to have, and he is available. And here we go. So we'll get that at the bottom of the hour. I don't know, close to it. I want to go through some news items first. And you can ask your questions regardless of what they are, no matter how simple or complicated or how cynical or positive they may be, because that is why he will be here. There we go. Now, let me get to the... I should do this two ways so that I can pre-do this. Okay, let me go back to here now. Web page. I got to click on my Facebook cropping, and bingo, there we are. So let me go down to the missing money. So there's an article. All links will be on the bottom. You know, by the end of the show, I'll do that. This article is just extremely important. In fact, let me open this thing up to the full web. This is on Solar.com, which is Catherine Austin Fitz. We've had her on the show a couple of times. She's great. Great in that she has hands-on inside experience with HUD and working under Bush. I guess it was senior, if I recall. And she found all kinds of missing money there. Plus, she does her own investment group and so forth with the Solari Group. And she does articles and interviews and so on, helping people understand things outside of her own organization. And she's been talking about this for a while, but it's something that's got to be drilled in our heads. This is admitted by the U.S. government. This is not some kind of conspiracy theory or some secret source that can't be named or whatever. This is admitted by the government. They're missing $21 trillion. Now, they took in that much money over time, and it got, let's call it spent. It got moved, and they don't know where it went. $21 trillion, which happens to be the national debt. It averages out to $65,000 for every person in America, and it's even more, I guess, than by a little. I go, it's a trillion. Trillion here, trillion there, and pretty soon you're talking about some serious money. So if they found that money, well, it's gone, right? But nefariously, no doubt. If they found it, that's gone. So even though the spending needs to be curtailed, and they're spending billions on learning better ways to blow people up and all these other things, that could happen. That could just happen the way it is, no problem. But if they just found this money, there would be no debt. National debt. This has got to be the largest story, the most significant story in the world, in the history of America, in terms of the significance of how it was stolen. Now, I've had her on, and actually, I'll look up the links for the show when I had her on. She postulated that the $21 trillion might be used for breakaway civilization, whether it be underground or off the earth. The kind of money $21 trillion is can research and build, a space program going to Mars, or dig an underground, lavish, incredible, safe, if you will, protected, so when everything goes to hell up here, they all go to underground. I mean, whatever you want to say, that kind of money can do anything. Excuse me, there. We're talking about doing anything with it. Anything with it. Well, actually, I'm going to go behind the magic curtain. So that's something I wanted to bring up and have you note. I don't know what to do about it. Maybe I can ask her to come on and we can talk about it. I mean, this should be on the news all over the place instead of, wondering about how Trump farted or something. But this should be on everywhere, and we should have everybody, every congressman and everybody at the door going, what about this? What about this? But it's not real sexy, I guess. I'm going to talk about this with the guest tonight when he comes on, so let me just go past that. Here's the thing, does dark matter exist? A new bold study offers alternative model. Now, let me mention about dark matter. This is, when I first heard about this, let's say they invented the dark matter because their models that they had didn't work. And so there was, if there was dark matter up there that was about 80% of the known universe's gravity mass, then our model would work. So dark matter was born. And then the search for dark matter and the theories about dark matter. Now, I'm not an astrophysicist. I can't go into details on it, but I always found it kind of suspect. When you start discovering unmeasurable, unseeable, undetectable things to make your equations work. Anyway, so there's an article about it. Of course, people are going to balk on it because dark matter is now accepted. It's like, does this remind you of anything? Does it remind you of, say, climate change? Where they have been, and let me fast forward to another story I have up here, a little farther down, where they actually fudged the data to make the climate change models work. And now this is not the first one. This has been several of them where they found them changing the data. This one is the measuring of the tides, fake sea level rise. Article in there on Breitbart has the information. But this is what it reminds me of. Our models don't work, And this is not even, like the climate change, we can talk about how globalism and oppressive government and all that other stuff fits in. So there's a whole layer of that on there. But what I'm talking about here, let me see, I got to look real quick here. Okay, well, I don't have an answer. So there's a whole political thing about climate change, and how they can use it in terms of globalization and whatnot. Dark matter, no. But if you get down to the people who do the models and all that, the believers, it's like people complain about, the people who believe Genesis, literally, there were 6 days of creation. And how they say that the Earth is 6,000 years old, and then they have the evidence showing it's lower, and they're changing the evidence. I mean, it's when you have a belief system that you put as an absolute and you change reality around you to fit it, that's where you're at. So dark matter and climate change, there's no political fodder in dark matter that I'm aware, other than who gets funded if they hire dark matter people. So let me. Now I posted this. To me, it's pretty obvious. In fact, I titled it Captain Obvious's report on clickbait, also known by some as fake news. If you'll notice, many of these fake or misleading posts are very dramatic or inciting headlines, and it's funny because they share these words over and over again, and I put them down. That's why I actually went through. I put some down from memory, but I went through and found more. Share before they delete this. This has been deleted before, and hurry up. Of course, when you do watch it, you could see it's been there for a while. And there's variants on that. This is so hot and revealing, they will delete it soon. They've tried to silence it. Share it quickly before it goes away, and so on. And then another one that's common is, I got blank, fill in the blank. John Doe just got some bad news. And variants of that is so-and-so was blown away, or so-and-so got shut down, or so-and-so shut him down. So-and-so won't be happy about this. Somebody, some name, or somebody doesn't want you to know this, etc. These are all, when you see that in the headline, don't even read it. Because why would someone, if I was going to do a headline, of course, I'm not a marketing guy. So when I do stuff, I just title it because it's what it's about, And so, but these are the things to look for. And it's not always fake news. A lot of fake news is fake news, but it's made by websites. You click and go on there, and then various other things, both nefarious and otherwise, are listed there. I also want to say virtually all posts nowadays about cryptocurrency or Bitcoin are goofy. So they're all suspect. They're all clickbait, especially when you go to there and you have to go through a whole video and you got to do all this stuff. That's all. As soon as I go to a place that's built like that, I don't even care if it was legitimate. I'm out of there. Those other phrases, like this is a game changer. We'll never be the same after this. Or, you won't believe who did this or what this is or whatever. These are all things. And so when I see these, I just move on. If you're out there and you're doing a legitimate story, this could be a lesson for you. Don't use these. Because while they do pull some people in, they also repel. And I would imagine over time, they're only going to work so many times before people are repelled. So that's why I put it in kind of as like an obvious thing, but something to think about. And I was reading a quote from Socrates, and I thought about Facebook. So I said in here, Socrates must have been a time traveler to the future and read Facebook posts when he said this, quote, "This is without doubt the most reprehensible folly. The folly of thinking we know what we do not know." And boy, I tell you, I guess you could say the internet, but you want to go on Facebook, it fits that. Now, I mentioned this before on the show, and I haven't actually put the time in. I think about it, I look for it, then I have to go or I get distracted. I got to do something else. But Supreme Court, back in the 70s, I believe it was, and I got it from a Chicago newspaper because it was based in Chicago. It was the Nazis. Neo-Nazis were marching in a predominantly Jewish neighborhood, and they wanted to stop it. And it went all the way up to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court said that there is no hate speech exception to the First Amendment, unanimously, liberal and conservative. Now, they did work out something where they marched somewhere else, and of course, those guys are all disbanded. They were gone probably within a year or two of all that stuff going on. But the point is that there is no hate speech. You can, if you go up to somebody and you call them some ethnic slur, all right, to charge you with the hate crime is unconstitutional. If you threaten to beat them up or you threaten to do financial, physical harm or whatever, you're going to write a story and it's false. You do libel, that's all handled by legality. That's not free speech. It's like saying fire in a crowded theater. So, and if you were to go into an area outnumbered by yourself and come up with all this ethnic slur stuff, you might get your face punched in. Now, that's not legal because, again, saying something like that is not considered an assault. It's not considered besmirching. If you were to, because it's not true, and nowadays, especially nowadays, if you did that in public, of course, you would look like the idiot, not the other person. So there really isn't any hate speech. So when they remove stuff from Facebook, calling it hate speech, I mean, it's against the Constitution. Now, whether the Constitution supports you being on Facebook and talking about it, that's another question, and that's something they should deal with. They're going to have net neutrality deals with whether or not your service provider can change your speeds and bandwidth based on the content that they wish you or don't wish you to see. That's net neutrality. And, of course, that should be obviously true. But the second part of it, which would be the software part of it, would be how big does Facebook have to get before it's considered a, quote, utility and therefore cannot control the content philosophically other than legal stuff when it refers to having underage people seeing adult material or talk or whatever. So it's very important to get that. Now, I'm on gab.ai, and I am, my address there is at F2F. That's my thing there. And I've posted some stuff, and people came up with very bad ethnic slurs, not to me, but during the relation to the post. And I can't block them. I can't report them because what they're doing is goofy. They're bad. It's bad. It's uncivilized or what have you, but it's not illegal. So I could hide it so I don't have to see it. And so I'm sure Gab is going to have a hard time because there's going to be trolls doing that kind of stuff, trying to get them because they don't censor the content. Speaking of censoring content, hold on, I got to move this around up here so I can see what I'm doing. All right. Speaking of censoring content, speaking of Facebook, I posted something on the Facebook page, which is called Extremist Left Watch. Gosh, I don't even know my own page. Hold on. That's bad, huh? Extremist Left Watch. Okay, I was right. And I got this from it, where it says, additional reporting on the link from Breitbart.com. Sometimes different news sources show conflicting perspectives on the same story. You can check out additional reporting from independent fact-check sites. That link that you shared has been fact-checked by PolitiFact. Go to PolitiFact. So I'm wondering, okay, so when CNN puts out an article and they're wrong, like when the email came to the Trump campaign about WikiLeaks, I want to know if they post that article and then you get this little sign comes up and says, well, wait a minute now. Differing news sources have different things and so on. So it's so obvious that it's ideologically driven and it's ridiculous. But then I wrote on here, a Washington CNN correction. The story has been corrected to say that the date of the email was September 14th, not September 4th. The story also changed the headline and removed the tweet from Donald Trump Jr., who posted a message about WikiLeaks. Now, the deal is, because the article came out later, it meant that the stuff was public, and it was sent by a Trump, fan or supporter to the Trump campaign to check it out after it was publicly available. So that blows out the whole thing that they had some kind of inside connection from WikiLeaks. It's ridiculous. trying to think of what else Now, Trump is rolling back the monuments. Obama came in and declared a huge portion of this country as government property, basically. And there is some talk about the various reasons for that. Not trying to save the land from people ruining it, but also having it be government property so government can do what they want with it. And that's where part of the Bundy thing came up. Turns out they wanted the land for something else. So the tribal members in the Utahns, I'm of course not going to say that right, I apologize. Western leaders applaud Barry Azir's monument rollback because they applaud it because of how it restricts use of the land. And what am I doing here? I'm getting beeps on my phone. All right. I'll make sure it's nothing important. So, when they write these things, in fact, there was another article. Gee, did I put that up here? I just thought of it now. There's some less. Well, I'll let that go for now. I want to hem and haw in here when I try to find it. Yeah, I like this. This is a tweet. Let me see if I can get this tweet up. It's said very well. So, Michael Flynn, charged with lying to the FBI. Uma Abedin, not charged with lying to the FBI. Cheryl Mills, not charged with lying to the FBI. Hillary Clinton, not charged with lying to the FBI. What do 3 of these 4 have in common? Oh, that's right. They're Democrats. So, I'm going to go back to this. So this is the problem here. It's so obvious this is politically motivated, but having talked with some people who are Democratic and have been in family, generational, they're like, they don't care if it's wrong because they want their guys or their people in. They don't want that person in. So anything they do to get it in is fine. And if Trump got shot, they'd be like, well, it's from flapping his mouth off. That's what happened. Any way to get this man out, it's phenomenal. Without history, no one has had this virulent hate from the other side to do it. And it's not because he's Republican, because you have Republicans against him. It's because he's an outsider and he's digging in the swamp. There's no other explanation I can come up with. Speaking of Trump, Trump impeachment vote shot down as majority of the House Democrats joined Republicans to kill the resolution. It was like 52 out of 400 were voting for it, and it got squashed. Now, what's her name? Pelosi said, "Well, not yet." What do you mean, not yet? So it was interesting. One of their guys forced a vote, and it failed overwhelmingly. So yeah. Now here's one other thing here. Trump recognized Jerusalem as Israel's capital. A lot of stuff about it. A lot of hoopla about it. And I had a talk with a friend about it, and I was explaining my part of it is that I don't want to stick my nose over in that area. I think that whole area is a bombshell, and I know there's oil over there, but the whole thing is like they're all if every single Israeli was off the planet, every Jew was gone, the Arabs would fight against Arabs. So it's not, they may unite against Israel, but without Israel, they'd fight against each other. Case in point, when Saddam Hussein was gone, they started the various Sunnis and all the rest of them are all fighting in there. So the thing I look at is like what Trump recognizes Jerusalem as Israel's capital and the Arab world goes wild. What actually was done was that he moved a building from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem, and he accepted Israel's word that it's their capital city that they have accomplished after a war that one would argue they were drawn into. Now, I know you can go on history, and I'm not an Israel file or anti-Israel but this is, I guess, what I thought about this is that this is something that I wanted to say was you gotta not react in this kind of materialistic sense. And both sides are materialistic because it's our land. No, it's our land. Whether you want gold, whether you want big houses or you want land, I don't know. In other words, what I'm saying is I'm not criticizing Palestinian over Israel, vice versa. It's like, in order to solve the problem, you're going to have to come up with, it's mine, it's mine. No, it's mine, no, it's mine. Because you'll never solve that. The only thing that solves that is war. Whether it be financial war or bombs. That's the only thing. And then you have the guy with the most bombs or the biggest army smashing the other one, and there's your solution. It's not a solution. We go back to America. You say, well, the Palestinians were there first. Well, you can blame Hitler, who early on in his tenure in Germany made deals with the German Jews that they could take their wealth out of Germany and move to Palestine by buying German goods with their wealth, bringing the goods down there, selling them, then they can get their money. So he made a deal with them, and that's when it started before World War II, end of World War II, where they made that. It's very interesting on all that it is. But, and of course, you look at America and say, well, we took I had nothing to do with it. I wasn't born. My family wasn't even here. But America took land away from the indigenous peoples. And so they should have it back. So all of America should go back to indigenous people. But then those indigenous peoples fought amongst themselves and took land from each other. So they're going to have to go back and figure out whose was that. At some point, what you got to do is you go, look, we got to start from here and move forward because there's no way to solve the back. There's no way you can have reparations, whether it be black slaves, Indians, Palestinians. There's no way to do it other than move forward with some kind of plan. Now, even that is arbitrary, but come up with a better one. Because either you're going to pick one side or the other, or you have to come up with a different one. All right, there's some more stuff I'll talk to our guest about. More stuff. All right, so we'll get to the crypto stuff. I'm going to call him in a minute or two here. So just going back and looking and covering. All right, I wanted to mention feettothefireradio.com is the main website. Oh, I got the wrong you on there. You could listen to the audio live or the latest one or archives. You can watch the latest video live or one from the previous week, whatever it's clued up with. And, of course, you could see all the various shows and articles that I've been writing, various links along the way. If you'd like to have a Feet to Fire mug, I got a price that cost. I think it looks pretty cool. I actually don't have it with me today, but I have one. And there's the previous stuff. Now, if you want to go to, because like I said, we've been going on the air for this is our 15th year. We're going to finish. We're actually going to have the anniversary. If you, this website only has 1 year's worth of stuff on here. So if you want to go back to the original, you hit original F2F website, and this is the website I've had since I started the show. And you go into the past shows. And that was the last show we did on this. But if you type a topic or guest or whatever in there, for the most part, they're coming up. Or you can go through manually and go through this way. You can go down and get whatever show it is and whatnot. If you go to the earlier ones, the problem is in the earlier ones, I had to change the coding. This is the original webpage, how it was written back then. I kept it, but you have to click on here. See, this is the 92803 Michael Cremo. You click on this link, and then you list it. You got to go look for 03928. And you would click on that, and you would download it. That's how you have to do the earlier ones. But there is, and also there's shows that are there that aren't in the list because back in the day, bandwidth and web space was very expensive and short because it's 2003, mind you. So I had to delete some shows along the way in order to keep it on the website. Now it's all there now. All the ones that I do have, I lost a few over the years, and so what you could do again is just click on there to whatever year, and you can start out, and it has the entire list that I do have from that first year. And the first, I don't have the first few shows because they were actually recorded on a VHS. I told you how long ago it was. And if I have them, they're here somewhere. I don't know. So they're gone. Let me get that. I got that out of the way. I want to make sure because people can listen. It's all free. You can listen to a lot of the guests that I've had. Nancy Leader. These people were big back in the day. and you can hear it kind of real time and see, what was going on back there. And a lot of people have passed away. For example, Len Kimball has passed away, but we had a nice show at that time. This is also a real big one. I just happened to click on this one. I think this is probably a replay. But David Booth, Major Ed Dames, and Robert C. Valentine were talking about probably one of my favorite shows anyway. It goes into the Third Secret of Fatima. And that goes back to December 18th, 2005. So there's a lot of stuff in there. Paul Pantone, who's now deceased, on the Geet engine. We have, there's just all kinds of stuff there. You could scroll through there. Cynthia Sue Larson just had her on a little while ago. She's still going, but anyway, just want to let you know those things are available. Now let me do this so I could use this. There we go. And let me call your row. He's only going to be audio, so. Mr. Rowe, you are live on the air on Feet to Fire. Great to have you here.
Hey, good to be here, James Arthur Yanchek. Pleasure and an honor, sir.
Yes, I was listening to your show the other day, which was on Revolution Radio. I have the links and everything underneath, and we can talk about that at your shows. And I was asking you some crypto questions, which not only did you answer well, very smooth, very knowledgeable, but you weren't an idiot like a lot of people I talk to. If I could be blunt. Because everybody's an expert. Everyone is a know-it-all, and if you don't agree with them, you yell at them. But your approach was to come up with the data and say, well, here it is. Here's the options. So I appreciated that.
Oh, thank you. Well, I appreciate you having me on the show, and sure, I'm ready and willing to answer just about any questions you've got.
Yeah, I've got a few, but I want to encourage. I have people who aren't crypto fans per se, and I want to encourage them to write or call. The phone line, if you want to try that, is 888-863-2722. That is pretty much the United States, Canada, but I've had people use it around the world, so it's kind of hit or miss. We can patch in on Skype.
Okay.
It's hard to do when I have a video feed here, but that is Feet 2, the number 2, Feet 2 Fire. But send me a message first and all that so I can pull you in. And, of course, there's email at James at feettothefireradio.com. And the chat room live in YouTube, because this is going out live, video, audio. And there's a chat room in Spreaker. So if you, by chance, are doing an audio-only thing, you can ask questions in there as well. I have 1 million, so I'm offering it to people, but I'll keep you busy. So let me just start with your background. Maybe you can tell us people, give us a little, paragraph on where you came from, and now you're into cryptos.
Yeah. I got my first computer, back in the 80s, and I got a modem with it. It was a 300 baud modem. And I started calling these BBSs, bulletin board systems. And my first phone bill came in a manila envelope. And that was when I decided, well, there's got to be a better way. So I started to learn everything I could about the phone system, and became what has been known as a phone phreaker. This was when I was in my younger years, and a computer hacker, learning about the blue boxes, living in the Bay Area, the 2600 meetings. Any old hackers will probably know that. Hung out with some of these folks like Draper and the like, and got into technology. And so I remember ARPANET and the launch of email, and when it was MILNET, experimental network, where the only way you could really get on this experimental internet back then was to kind of hack in through a college system or military or something like that. And so I've witnessed the birth of the network and the paradigm that technology is bringing us down. So I saw the takeoff of email. I remember telling in my first job when I was 16 years old, telling my boss, one day you and everybody you know will have something called email, and there'll be instant messages on a computer. And nobody had computers at this time, and my boss kind of thought I was crazy. A few people had, and yeah, what is this email? Whatever, blah blah blah. And so that progressed. Now grandma has email. Grandma puts her credit card on the internet, just like everybody else. There was a day when people can remember, oh, I'll never do my banking over the internet. I'll never put my credit card on there. I remember the Electronic Frontier Foundation and me being one of the people that was vehemently against putting commercialization on the internet. We're like, no, this is a wild and free place for everybody. We don't need, commercial business being done. Nobody was selling anything. There's no Amazon. There's nothing like that. And here we are today, the evolution of the internet. And now we have blockchain technology. Also, at the same time, I went into the defense industry. I was sort of a systems analyst, a problem solver, if you will, and a researcher, technology researcher for various companies like TRW, Lockheed Martin, Computer Sciences Corporation. I did a lot of contract work, EG&G, and some of those other alphabet soup type of companies. So that was interesting. So it gave me a wide range of access to technologies and what is possible. And, another thing about blockchain is it is very elegantly simple. Just to get this out of the way, a lot of people are talking about the fear of AI. That, oh no, it's artificial intelligence is everywhere. And while I believe there is a credible threat to AI, I've done some shows on aerosol disbursement programs, nanotechnology, the use of synthetic RNA, DNA clusters that reproduce, and there's various competing AIs as well. But is it hidden within the blockchain? My answer to that is no. The reason being is blockchain and Bitcoin are open source, at least in its initial inception. When you look at the blockchain and Bitcoin, you see basically a message system, an encrypted message system. Bitcoin is the first application to run on blockchain. What is blockchain? Blockchain is a decentralized, unchangeable or immutable ledger. That's it. How is it unchangeable? It is cryptographically secure. So basically what we have is whatever Satoshi Nakamoto is, I like to kind of joke and say, well, he's a dolphin. And the dolphin known as Satoshi Nakamoto, all he really did, he didn't come up with anything new out of the box. He just put components together. So we've got the internet. The internet was designed as MILNet, ARPANET, experimental network, a decentralized network designed to withstand a nuclear war done by the Department of Defense and DARPA. Okay. So that exists. We have this network. A lot of people are saying, well, look, it's the web, it's the net, that's going to ensnare us, that's the AI. Well, we're all using it. So we've got the web. What else we have? We have email. Email is nothing but a messaging system, UDP, TCP, IP stack. It just runs on top of the network. One message goes to another. Now, you have cryptography. Cryptography is, well, mathematics. It's what it is. It's been used by state actors for decades. And so you basically, and then you have decentralization, like BitTorrent or Napster, which is just peer-to-peer sharing of bits and pieces of data. And then you have open source, which means that it's not hidden code. Microsoft Windows is not open source. It means you can't just look at the code and see what makes it tick without doing a lot of decompilation. With the blockchain code, you can look at it. Of course, you kind of have to know code, which a lot of people do. And you can see, and you can actually contribute to it and do consensus so that if anybody has an idea about putting something in, or let's say changing the number so that there's more Bitcoins or whatever, everyone would see that. And everyone being everyone because it's spread across the decentralization. So now we've got those simple components that are put together, and we have the blockchain. Now, Bitcoin, all it is an encrypted key pair. two specific basic numbers. One is your key that you can give, or your address. That's the public key side that you can give out and say, this is my Bitcoin address. And then the other side basically is your private key. That's what you want to keep super secret, because with that, anybody can get your Bitcoin by just putting that in and recovering it into a wallet. So now, there's really no place for AI to hide in Bitcoin. Is there any place for AI to hide on blockchain? That's the question. We have Ethereum. Ethereum is something that I think is also going to grow in value, but it's a little bit different in that it not only functions as a messaging system, you can have smart contracts. You can have programmable contracts built on top of that. Now, here's where it gets a little bit more intricate. Could an AI exist in a whole series of smart contracts? That's an open-ended question. I'm not going to say no. So I just want to differentiate that Bitcoin, in its original inception, the way it is nothing more than a token system. Basically, it's like digital pogs. The United States feels like it could be looked at as comic books. As far as how is it treated, it's treated like a piece of property. And if you sell a comic book for monetary value, that's a capital gain. So you would pay taxes on that. But they're not going to tax you on the comic books that you already have. So this is the same how it works right now with Bitcoin. And there are only going to be 21 million Bitcoins. There have been what's called forks. That means that when a group of people that are programming Bitcoin and keeping it up to date, basically there's consensus, and they all get together on GitHub and have forums. If one group says, well, we think that we should change part of it, like for example the block size, it's bogged down, we need to make the block size bigger. And another group says, no, we don't need to make the block size bigger, we need to do this, something else. And so we have a disagreement. Well, then the chain will fork. And now you've got Bitcoin, which still exists, and now you have something else called Bitcoin Cash, which basically was a one-to-one split. Some people would even refer to as a dividend. Now, folks that are proponents of Bitcoin Cash might get insulted if you called their coin a dividend, but at this point, Bitcoin Cash is trading, I think, around 1,500 as opposed to, let's say, 15,000. There is still a lot of room for the market to grow. It is extremely small.
If I can kind of stop in here, because
go ahead.
One of my questions had to do with Bitcoin Cash as it forked, and it was a one-to-one split. But boy, the price doesn't look like it's one-to-one.
Right. In fact, it was funny because crypto history was made, and I sat here and watched it. After the split, there was a time when there was going to be another split, when they called it a SegWit 2X. Right. And the SegWit 2X split didn't happen. A lot of people were anticipating, in fact, there were futures. People were pouring money into SegWit futures, thinking, oh, this is going to split, this is going to be the true Bitcoin. And then it was called off at the last minute. And right at that moment, when it was called off, apparently miners, some people think Chinese miners, started to pump the Bitcoin Cash and dump Bitcoin. And this caused Bitcoin to do a little bit of a crash and Bitcoin Cash to shoot up within like 5 minutes, maybe even less than that. It went from, I think it was $400 to $3,000. And I mean, wow. I mean, we watched this just blast off. And then it dropped from 3,000 down to about 1,500. Where it sort of is right now. So you talk about a little bit of manipulation. And so we don't know. Bitcoin Cash is cheaper to use right now. It's faster. Bitcoin is suffering from backlog in unconfirmed transaction and is costing about the equivalent to $5 to $10 in fees just to send any amount of Bitcoin, which people are saying this is kind of ridiculous. But there's a group of people that are also saying, wait, now Bitcoin wasn't really meant for small day-to-day transactions anymore. It's graduated into its status as gold. It's too valuable. We're going to be using Litecoin and other altcoins for that. And with the finite supply, maybe that might actually be more to the mark, because with a finite supply of 21 million full coins, of course, they are divisible out to 8 decimal places, which means that even if one Bitcoin is worth $1 million, Satoshi, which is the smallest unit, would still be under a penny. There is plenty of room on the international stage for multiple coins. And I see Litecoin being the silver to Bitcoin being the gold. Folks say, well, Bitcoin will never be adapted as a money for a state or a sovereign country. And that's true, just like gold never was. But it is valuable. And silver, it is valuable. I would say, that you could take gold or silver and somebody will pay you in whatever local currency there is, just like a comic book, just like anything else of value. And I'm also going to say that it is a good idea to have metals. I hear a lot of metals people say, no, don't get into Bitcoin. You want to buy silver and gold. Well, why not diversify? What is wrong with having a little bit of both? So that's,
I mean, that's my point, is that there's people who are either or, and they try to justify their choice. Like for example, one of my questions I'm going to get into is, people say Bitcoin has no inherent value. I mean, it's just a number. And my response to them is like, well, if you look at a dollar bill, it's not the bill itself. It has, what value is the dollar bill? Paper, some ink. But it's the number on that dollar bill, and it's the law that enforces you have to take it, and it's the taxes that prop it up, and the guns around the world that prop it up. So, I mean, that's the point. The value I see in Bitcoin is the infrastructure, the system, all the things you described, how it works. To me, there's a value in that infrastructure. And if you have 17 million, I know you said 21, but I was reading an interview with McAfee, or watching one, and he said that there's something like 4 million coins have been lost. Now, I don't know if that's provable or true, but you're going to have between 17 and 21 million divided into quadrillions of dollars throughout the world in various currencies. Bitcoin could get up to 1 million and become the crypto T-bill, if you will, that could back in the background, and then you can have other currencies in front of it.
Yeah. Now, as far as the 1721, there are almost 17 million Bitcoins in circulation now that are out there. And of those that are in circulation, about 4 million or so, McAfee's right, have been lost. And the rest of the total of 21 million will not be released until the year 2140. Now, how does that work? Every 10 minutes, the blockchain has a block that must be opened or solved cryptographically by a mathematical puzzle. And that is what, when I send a Bitcoin to someone, that Bitcoin transaction gets locked up in a block. And in order for that transaction to go through and be confirmed, somewhere along the line, a miner has to solve that block. The puzzle has to be just hard enough so that the mining system or the computing power on the network can solve it within about 10 minutes of the last block. If the puzzle gets solved less than 10 minutes, the puzzle is increased, so it takes longer. And if more computing power comes online, the puzzle gets even harder. That's called the difficulty adjustment. So every 10 minutes, as the block is solved, Bitcoins are released. Now, originally, it was 50 Bitcoins per block. You could mine it with a laptop, and that was back in 2009, 2010. You could mine it with a laptop. And then it got harder and harder. You needed graphics cards, and then you needed the FPGAs, field programmable gate arrays. And then you needed ASICs, which is today application-specific integrated circuit machines, which are highly specialized computers that run loud and hot, and they don't do anything but run the encryption SHA-256 double-round encryption algorithm to try to crunch these blocks. And so after a certain amount of time, the 50 Bitcoins halved into 25 Bitcoins. And after a little bit longer time, that 25 became 12.5. And so every so often along the line, a halvening is going to occur. And that's going to be half the number of Bitcoins will be released as was before until the year 2140, which of course is beyond our lifetime, supposedly. And so by then, the last Bitcoin, which would be like 0.000 something, will actually be released. And who knows if it's still a money system, will it even be still used? Will we have gone on to something else? Time will tell. But that's
Well,
how
let me ask you on that. That year is that year been figured out by projecting the current rate of both increasing in CPU and participation forward to find out when the last coin will be, or is it somehow hard coded that it will be released in that year?
No, it's dynamically adjusted, so that there's sort of an algorithm that knows, okay, there's a set amount of coins, 21 million. I'm going to release them all by this time, and it knows the adjustment of how many computers are solving problems, so that every 10 minutes a block will be released, and that's basically how it works. I mean, it's all the numbers are calculated by the network.
Well, what I'm trying to say is that if, say, all of a sudden tomorrow there's double the processor power on a planet mining Bitcoins, that year will still be intact because the difficulty will rise along with that?
You got it. Exactly. The difficulty adjusts on the Bitcoin core network. It adjusts every 2 weeks. There is differences on some of the blockchains on how the difficulty works, but yes. So every 2 weeks, the difficulty, it's checked, and if more computing power comes on, boom, then it goes up. If less goes offline, then the difficulty will drop. And that's the problem with getting into mining, is when you buy miners, let's say you have a bunch of money, and you're like, I want to put $1 million in miners, and you get a warehouse, and you put $1 million, you got your mining, and you got whatever hashing power you got, 500 million terahashes or whatever it is. And that's what you've got. It's what you're going to have tomorrow, and that's what you're going to have 3 months from now and next year. The difficulty is going to keep going up and up and up and up. And so over time, your mining power is going to be less and less efficient. You're still going to be using the same amount of electricity, so you're still going to be paying that out, but you're going to be getting less and less Bitcoin. Now, optimally, Bitcoin value will be rising as well. So hopefully the value of Bitcoin lately, like it has been, will continue to rise faster than the difficulty and the cost of your diminishing returns.
I mean, if people are watching on the video now, I'm scrolling through pictures of mining rigs that go from the earlier ones to these. I mean, you could see these giant rooms with rows and rows and rows and rows of processors. So if someone's out there thinking, you know, I want to take my computer and start mining some Bitcoin, good luck.
You know, yeah, I have a few miners. I've got a couple of them that are pictured right on the screen here. And this was years ago. They're actually in the corner of this office right now. I can look at them. And I had them going on one side of the room. I actually had a portable air conditioner on the other side of the room. And there was a fight because I'm trying to get through life in July with these 3 Bitcoin miners in my office and a portable air conditioner. And then there's just so much noise. Okay, use the noise. It's making money. But it was still miserable. I mean, these things put out so much heat. And they run so loud. There it is, Bitmain. That's the one I've got. So, yeah.
Yeah, well, okay. So I want to tell you, I started, I was looking into Monero. I talked a little bit on the show with you about it, and I cited today, I looked at it. I had no idea. I knew Bitcoin was going to be out of reach, but I've not tried mining or nothing at all. So I looked into it, and according to what I was reading, Monero at this point would be, you know, kind of like one of the better ones to do if you're going to do it. Well, then I didn't know. I have a studio computer that I built that has a GTX 780 card plus a i7, the 4970 or 4790, I think. I said, well, you know, I know it's old now. It's a couple years old, but I went on to try and figure it out, and I had to roar with laughter when it did an estimate based on my cards that I might be able to mine a couple of Moneros a year. And I went, oh, okay. Plus, I wanted to mention this too. MineGate. It's a software program.
Okay.
Are you familiar with that?
No, I thought it was maybe a mining pool.
No, well, the program is called MineGate. I don't have it now because I had to install it, and it took me a good part of 2 hours to pull all the crap and the malware that it put on my system. MineGate, I think it is. I'm gonna look it up real quick. Mining.
And that's the thing now is everybody has to be very
MinerGate. It's an actual website. Yeah, I got it up on the of YouTube here, and I ran that software, and it ruled up everything to the max. So it got as good as it was going to get. And then I started reading about it, of course, after I ran it, and that's where I got all these warnings. And sure enough, when I went and looked, it took Malwarebytes did find these things, and I had to manually go in there and delete the software. But
I think that now people that are, with Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies, it's going to give people basically the position of being their own bank, and they're going to be responsible for their own security. And it's going to be a hard lesson in the next few years as a lot of the public gets a very quick, hard crash course on what it's like to suddenly find themselves responsible for their own assets if they get into crypto. Because a lot of people are used to, look, you put your money in the bank and you forget about it. You don't have to worry about, your fortune being lost. Even if somebody robs a bank, you're insured. But with cryptos, if you do the wrong thing, if you send it to the wrong address, if you put your key in the wrong place and somebody gets it or you lose it, that's it. There's no one to go to. There's I don't think there's anybody that's going to. There might be an insurance company that will insure it if you go work with them, but there's nobody that you can go after the fact and say, look, this happened. And even if it's on the blockchain, that's one thing that people need to know is Bitcoin transactions are final. And if you can't trust the person on the other end or you don't know, consider it, a done deal once you send it out.
What about the criticism that, if I have cash or if I have gold coins or whatever, I can walk up to somebody physically and transact, whereas you need the internet for cryptos? Now, I would add right off the bat that internet is almost as ubiquitous as electricity. So
yeah,
if they quote unquote are going to turn off the internet, well, the banks are online, all the shops and selling, all that stuff's online. So you can't pull the plug on electricity and without pulling their plug, and vice versa. So I don't look at that argument. But you think there might be some kind of a way in the future? I know you can store your coins on paper. I was looking into that. But think there's some kind of way where you can have hand scanners where you can have your Bitcoins offline and then reconstitute them, so to speak, with some kind of handheld deals?
Oh yeah, absolutely. There's offlines already. First off, you have hardware wallets where your Bitcoins are safe. That's the safest place to keep your Bitcoins, on a hardware wallet like a Nano, Ledger S, a Nano Blue, a Trezor. They already have nodes in space. There's a group that already worked on putting a Bitcoin node on a satellite. They didn't tell anybody. They just decided to do it. And when they were done, then they announced it and said, oh, by the way, we've got Bitcoin back up in space. There's another group that's working on Bitcoin transmission with radio. Of course, you can have a paper wallet or a brain wallet. That's offline. The blockchain would have to be completely 100% removed, and the entire network would have to be taken down for that to happen. Now, if that happens, then we've got a lot of bigger fish to fry. I mean, and I'm not worried about my Bitcoin. If we're in a Mad Max situation, then we've got to work with that contingency. But failing that, which I really don't believe we're going to have some sort of global catastrophe. I'm not one to buy into this. That first off, we're going to get hit by an asteroid, or there's going to be a full-on Mad Max scenario, and we're all going to go into that mode. I just that's not my deal. I kind of think that it's going to be like my ancestors. Grandpa grew old and the house was still standing, and his grandfather grew old and the house was still standing. And barring any little major or little regional issues, there might be a flood or an earthquake here or there. I don't see the world ending, so I don't see cryptocurrency going away. And the nice thing about the cryptos is, if people don't know, it is not owned by an entity. This is just code. And again, it's simplicity. What you've got, what we can liken blockchain technology to is fire or steel. except in the digital world. You know, you've got an entire digital economy. You have Second Life. You have Swords and Gold on Warcraft and Diablo. You know, there's a multi-billion-dollar industry in virtual equipment. There are, you know, and so the digital world is not going away, and it's something that we need to treat with respect, just like we do with fire. Fire doesn't care if it's burning your house, the forest, or cooking your food and warming you. It is fire. It does what people use it to do. Steel doesn't care if it's keeping you locked up in a cage or if it's a shield shielding you against, you know, whatever the elements.
Now, let me jump in here. I like listening to you. You could literally go on forever, but I'll forget to ask the question. Going back to the idea of implementing this in a security, I look back and marvel and realize that with all the people doing their things, right, today, we have electric lights. At one point, you actually had a gas light lighting your house. And if that light would have went out, you would have blown your house up. Mm-hmm. And that was nobody was worried about it. They took the precautions to have the gas lighting, and it was a normal thing every day, and so on. And so I think as we grow more mature in it, the securities that will be happening with Bitcoin and all that will become more normal, everyday life stuff. Yeah. People will be used to everybody will know what 2FA means, two-factor authentication. It'll be second nature to have a device that you have to put in a special PIN code that only you have access to on top of your password, because your password will no longer be sufficient for security. Oh, are you there? Yeah. Oh, okay, all right. It kind of ended hard there. I do have a question that came in from Gord. He's a long-time listener. I'm going to read what he writes here. The cryptocurrency rush is now a bubble about to crash over 90%, just like the dot-com crash early 2000. Harry S. Dent of Dent Research believes this. He's in Harvard MBA and was consultant for several Fortune 500 companies. Before you say anything, I want to mention something. I was trained years ago in noticing propaganda and arguments and so forth. So in this argument, you have the authority of Harry S. Dent. And this is nothing to Gord. He's asking a question, but I'm looking. Harry S. Dent has this authority. Hey, he's a Harvard MBA. He's a consultant for you guys. He knows what he's talking about. And then he comes out and says this type of a thing. And I have a problem with that kind of an approach. I need to know why. You're going to have to give me. You can't say, just like this happened, this is going to happen. I need to have I want to see the levers and the wheels turning, how they get to that. So if I can ask you to comment on this. Yeah, nowadays, knowing with the political climate and what's coming out on, these folks of authority, these Nobel Prize laureates. There was, I forget the guy's name. There was another guy was talking, basically saying the same thing. And you have a lot of these guys that are in the same circles, the elite sort of billionaire club, hundreds and hundreds of millions. They all sit on each other's boards. Of course, they've got each other's back. This Nobel Prize laureate recently said, he was the vice president for the World Bank, but he recently said on CNBC, no, and literally, I have the video, I played it on my show. I was laughing. I couldn't keep it in. He was saying, we ought to basically just go back and stay with the system the way it's always been. And I'm like, yeah, because that's proven to be so wonderful. For them, this is a debt-based system that we're in. Usury, the banking system. I mean, we can all agree, no matter what our political sides are, that the current system is crap. The current system can be improved. Now, personally, I think money should be dealt away with, but we're not going to change. That's not going to happen overnight. I'm a realist. I would love to have no government. I would love to, not chaos, but anarchy in a way where you have self-government, where you have self-regulation. But again, being a realist, we're not going to change the paradigm that drastically in a heartbeat. But we can try to improve what we've got. Now, failing the blockchain decentralized non-banking intervening system, which this is what this experiment is. We're cutting out these bankers.
We're not only cutting out the monetary bankers, we don't need lawyers. We don't need notary publics. I mean, we can use the blockchain for voting to have honest voting. People probably say, well, yeah, I don't believe in voting. The voting is rigged. Whether you think it is or not, there is suspicion that the voting system in America, at least, is a little bit rigged. And how do we absolutely 100% be sure that it's not? Blockchain, open source. Everybody can see everything right there. So we're taking away the secrecy with technology. We're keeping it honest with what they call trustless systems. So you can't just have a guy punch up a few zeros on a computer at a bank anymore, and poof, there it is. We can do fractional reserve lending. No, because every single Bitcoin is accounted for. And I think it's also a window for redistribution of wealth in a very unique way. Here's another thing real quick. When you have fiat currency, that's based on their old system, the legacy system, cash equity markets, all that. That's a debt-based system. What happens with your fiat if you hoard it? Over time, it buys less and less and less and less. A dollar bought a whole lot more 50 years ago than it does today. With gold and metals, what does that do? Is that a wealth builder? No. It's a wealth preserver. It's a hedge. And you'll hear all the gold and metals people say that. To preserve your wealth. To preserve your wealth. It's a great wealth hedge. It's a great. Of course it is. 1 ounce of gold has, through time, consistently, sort of, they like to say this, bought a good suit. And that could be equated. Yes, 1 ounce of gold basically buys a really nice suit. It still does. It did. And it probably will 50 years from now. But does its buying power increase over time? The same amount of gold? No. Does it decrease? No. It remains the same. Now we have a new system, cryptos. We are in a very unique time because this is the introduction of it. This is innovation early adopter stage. In 10, 15 years, cryptos are going to be here, and you're going to be using it, but the crypto market will be saturated to the point where things will have reached their levels. The prices will have found their marks. Bitcoin will know its price. It will be stabilized. It won't be as volatile. That means you won't be able to ride the wave. If you get in now, there is a possibility that you can ride this crypto wave while it is still a wealth builder. So, debt builder, wealth preserver, wealth builder. That's the three. Fiat, metals, and crypto. That's my opinion. I could be wrong.
All right. Well, let me. I got a couple questions here in the live chat room on the Facebook. All right, now I got to find it. What wallet does he recommend?
Oh, okay. Okay. First off, if you have any amount that you're going to store for long periods of time, I recommend a hardware wallet. That's either the Nano Ledger S, the Nano Blue, or the Trezor. Those are hardware wallets. Now, if you're going to have your Bitcoin, let's say, stored on your computer, try to be as secure as possible. You know, might want to keep it on a laptop that's not connected to the net or a system that's offline. Then I would recommend the Electrum wallet. Electrum, and that's both for Bitcoin and Litecoin. They have those ELECTRUM, ELECTRUM. That one, and Exodus is also a good wallet. The Exodus wallet. Exodus is nice because it holds multiple altcoins, the different ones, you know, Litecoin, Ethereum, et cetera, et cetera. And Jax, JAXX, is also a pretty good wallet. And I think that Exodus and Jax, I know that Jax, you can get that for the Android and the smartphones. And I think you can also with Exodus. But the Electrums, those will work with your hardware wallets. And then, of course, anything of any value that you're going to hold long term, get yourself a hardware wallet. You know, if you've got more than a Bitcoin, I would say yes, even with one Bitcoin, because that one Bitcoin today, you're like, well, it's only like, you know, 15,000. Yeah, it was only $1,000 January 1st. By the way, let me say this. If anybody listens to my shows, I have the archives approved. I've been predicting the price. And how I've been doing this, I'm going to give the secret right now, is it's been following Moore's Law. Except it's not been following Moore's Law on a yearly basis. The timeline on Moore's Law seems to shift a little bit. in the favor of being shorter. And what I've noticed is Bitcoin has been following Moore's law. And so last year I said, look, Bitcoin's going to hit when it was around $400. It's going to be 1,000 on January 1st. And on January 1st of this year, to the day, it hit 1,000 exactly. And on that day, on my show, one of the shows very close, I said, okay, it's going to be 10,000 by December or January 1st of next year. Well, I was wrong, obviously. It's well over 10,000. So I miscalculated. And by that rate, though, calculating out, extrapolating based on past performance, looking at the charts and extrapolating it out, I've written the charts down, I conservatively see a $1 million Bitcoin before 2021. And that's just a few years away. At this rate, though, that could happen way before. That could happen. We could see a $1 million Bitcoin in 2019. But there's no telling. Another thing to be cautious of is with these futures that are being launched. One just launched a few hours ago, and one is launching next week. This is going to give institutional folks sort of more exposure. While futures won't affect the price directly, it could play into manipulation. While people that, let's say there's a scenario where a bunch of folks buy up a whole lot of Bitcoin, driving the price up really quickly, like it has been. Price gets driven up 16, 17, 20,000 or more. Short positions are put in by the institutional players that now have a lot of Bitcoin. A coordinated dump is done. That is supposed to compromise the confidence in the Bitcoin system, so that everybody's, oh no, we got to sell. Oh look, you can't get out. Everybody's, oh, Bitcoin drops 10,000, 8,000, 7,000. Slam it 5,000, 2,000. Slam it 1,000. People are, oh no, I just want to get out. Anything I'll sell at a loss. Boom. Short positions close. They clean up. Put long positions in. Buy up. All the people are shaken out. A lot of people have lost money. But, oh, no, the news is, look, what's going on? The banks buy it back up. Boom, 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 boom. They've got all the Bitcoin. That's a possible scenario. I'm not saying that's going to happen, but the folks in the crypto sphere are aware of that. So we will see. Time will tell. The bankers literally are inviting the dragon into their living room to take the dragon. Okay. So we'll see what happens. It's kind of like, let's tame the tiger. Bring it in, honey. Sit, kitty. Okay, that's going to work out well.
No, I'm looking at this. I'm looking at. I got it on live for people watching the GDAX.
Yes.
Printout here, and I noticed before I started doing the show prep that Bitcoin had dropped down into 14 something, and I'm like, oh, okay, so. Then I'm doing a show prep, and I bring it up online, and like after I stopped looking at it, it shot up to 16,000, and then like within minutes went back down to 15. Now, how is that possible? What's the mechanism for that to happen?
This is true free market. You're going to see volatility. This is multiple $1,000 moves we're going to see, which absolutely is predicted. When Bitcoin is trading at around between $20,000 and $70,000, we'll probably see $10,000, $20,000 moves. This is just indicative of a free market volatility. The funny thing is, the traditional cash equity markets of Wall Street are used to, if you have a 5% move in a day or a week, that's like breakout champagne. I mean, they're like, 5%. Bitcoin farts 5% on a minute-by-minute basis, doing nothing at all. So the crypto sphere is used to moves of 20, 50, 70% very quickly. They have what they call the circuit breakers, that are supposed to cap these futures moves. Like on the stock market, if the stock market moves too much, the circuit breakers go off and they stop. Well, if they try that with Bitcoin, it's going to blow every circuit breaker because it's its own animal. Time in crypto is kind of like dog years. 1 year in crypto is like, well, let's say one year in cash equity markets is like 1 minute in crypto, So
yeah, but so literally, the price is literally determined by people buying versus people selling. So if there's a lot of people buying, the price goes up. And if a lot of people sell, it goes down, and that's as simple as that.
Simple as that. In fact, I remember back in, I want to say the old days, 3 or 4 years ago, back in the earlier days of cryptos when there were exchanges, and it wasn't moving. Like you're looking at GDAX right now, and it's up, the numbers are just moving right along. But earlier, you could just put your order in, you see your order, you still can on some exchanges, see your order, and your order would move the price. There would be that small amount of volume, and that still happens on some of the other exchanges. There's one in Africa, Golix exchange, I forget. Bitfundi is now Golix. It's a Zimbabwe exchange, and unfortunately, if you are in Africa, you're not really allowed to trade on a lot of other exchanges. They're like, you're in Africa, we're not going to deal with you. So they have to use their exchanges. Bitcoins are trading at almost double on some of those African exchanges because the volume is so low. So it's also for people sometimes a good way to learn how trading works, because things are very the contrast is there, and a lot of times on some of the smaller exchanges, the human eye, you can actually see it. Oh, okay, here's my order in, here's the ask, here's the buys, so I like it.
Okay, so let me on this I got a question I got to remember over here, but on this topic, I'm watching these things. So if somebody decided to sell 500 coins, it would pop, literally, you would see it pop up here, like 500 would be the order or whatever, but that would, it could drop the price down like a lot.
Well,
and vice versa?
Yeah, I don't know if 500 coins would do it.
Okay.
But it would probably move it maybe a few cents or maybe a buck or two.
All right. Because I'm looking at this futures market thing, and I'm looking at the potential where somebody institutionally have bought up a lot of Bitcoins, and now they're going to short it, and then they dump a bunch of coins in the market. It goes down. They collect on the short. They buy the coins back. It goes back up, et cetera, et cetera.
Right. And that is the scenario that everybody is kind of like poised to see. Are they going to try this? Is this what the banks are going to do? And it would kind of make sense. I mean, if you could, right, you'd want to make money. And what a way to do it. And tame the dragon, quote unquote, at the same time, because then the confidence of all these crypto people would be like, oh, my goodness gracious.
So like Pete Rose would be kind of pissed off at this point, because, he's betting on his own team and he gets thrown out of the Hall of Fame, and these guys are betting against themselves and then turning around and selling it. Let me get to this question here before I forget. It's a very interesting one. How can we gain both coins after a fork?
How can you gain both coins after a fork?
I'm guessing that you have to make a choice. That's why it's called a fork.
No, actually, you get both coins. So the only thing that you need to have been doing before the fork is holding coins in a wallet that you have control of your private key. That's it. So if you had your coins on an exchange, it's up to the exchange whether they're going to give you the coins. Like Coinbase said, oh, for Bitcoin Cash, yes, you'll get your coins on January 1st. So they still haven't given them out yet. Other exchanges like Kraken said, yep, boom, there you go. Now you instantly have the same amount of Bitcoin Cash. Other exchanges said, no, we're just, you don't get them, whatever. So as long as you have your own key, then basically you just import that key on the other chain. You would basically get a wallet like Coinami and add the Bitcoin Cash wallet to that as one of the wallets, integral to it, let's say on your Android or whatnot, and then import private key and copy the key, the same key that you used as your Bitcoin key, copy that key into your Bitcoin Cash key slot, and it will, because it's the same key on two different chains. It was a chain that split because now it's two different chains. Now you have the equivalent of Bitcoin Cash. I know it kind of sounded confusing.
No, I mean, I got it, but I'm going to ask a question that I think I know the answer, but so when you have the keys, right, you have the public keys, private keys, is the public key, let's say, in the blockchain? Because I'm thinking, like, I have this wallet that I've created, like, it's mine, but how does anybody know it's mine? And or not me personally, but it's like, where is that information kept? So when I want to send something to the wallet, it actually goes to that wallet.
Yeah, everything is in the blockchain.
Okay.
Everything is on the blockchain is the unchangeable, cryptographically immutable ledger that is on everybody's system. One of the other comments that people have is, well, this blockchain keeps growing, and it's like huge right now. I don't know how many gigabytes it is. And if you download certain wallets like Bitcoin Core, it wants to download the entire blockchain. And if you don't have a freaking terabyte on your computer, it could take days to download the dang thing. So other wallets have figured a way to centralize it, sort of put nodes that have the full blockchain, and then the wallet downloads, let's say, the last 6 months or the last year of the blockchain. Because to download 9 years worth or 8 years, whatever it is, worth of data, it is taxing on computers.
No, I got that. So, like, what if I have a wallet in, like, year 2, and I haven't done anything, and now today I want to use it? Is that going to be a problem?
No, as you could either probably the best thing to do would be to get the key out of that wallet, and then import that into a more updated wallet. Because the problem that you would have wouldn't be that your Bitcoins are lost, because they're locked up with the key. Would be that your software of the wallet might be out of date to the point where there's been so many updates that it just won't function correctly. So it might actually want to download the entire chain and still not work right, and you don't want to do that. So if you've got a wallet that's more than a couple of years old, my suggestion is to just recover from the backup. Now, of course, failing that, you might not have a choice. You might, I never backed it up, it's just sitting there. Then you might have to go ahead and just turn it on, let the wallet update itself. It's going to download the rest of the chain. And then I would, at that point, immediately try to get the key out and then import it into a brand new wallet. That's just me.
Yeah, right. No, I mean, it's sound advice. It makes total sense. Another question I have is, like, I'm trying to figure out that once hardware wallets get better done, that is it possible, do you think, that you can end up having what we call a credit card now be an actual mobile Bitcoin wallet? You load it at home, you go out to the store, you swipe it, or you stick it in, like they got a chip now, and you can use the hardware in the store to program it to give them X amount of Bitcoin or whatever crypto.
Well, actually, there's something like that now. It's called BitPay. And what it is just a loadable card that you can say, well, I want to put, $100 on it. And it'll say, okay, send 0.000 whatever Bitcoin to this address. And you send it. Ding, send, ding. And now you've got $100 in cash on that BitPay card, which is a Visa, Interlink Plus system card that you use anywhere you use a Visa debit card. It has a PIN number, so you could actually go to the ATM and withdraw. So that does exist now. I actually have one. Okay, well, I mean,
that's still using the dollar as the central thing, but that's fine. I mean, that's still usable. I mean, if you could...
They also have a Shift card, which does do on-the-fly direct transfer. You tie that to your Coinbase account. It works the same way, except you don't load it. It's just linked, and whatever Bitcoin you have in your Coinbase account, when you use it at the point of sale, it does the transaction conversion right there.
Now, that stuff is all well and good, but I'm looking at the cryptos now and saying, who in their right mind would actually go out and buy dinner with one? I mean, because, the next day you could buy 3 dinners with one. It almost seems like the coins were made to actually use and buy things, but they're in a point now where you want to buy them and keep them because of the investment aspect of it.
Yeah. I don't know. It's kind of for me, it's both ways. It's fun to spend them, and of course you don't want to spend them because they're going to go up. I have done some profit taking a little bit as using them as barter to get some things and, some upgrades per se. But But that's one of the arguments that people are having. It's like, oh, nobody's going to want to spend it. Well, yeah, I guess it depends on the personality. Some people have a savings account and they dip into their savings.
Well, I mean, if you can talk your employer or your person you contract or do business with to pay you in Bitcoin, that'd be one thing because you got an income in Bitcoin. Yeah. But now you have to take the dollar bill, which is becoming less valuable compared to Bitcoin, and you're taking a bigger portion out of your paycheck, so to speak, to buy a Bitcoin. So maybe this is something that'll level out at some point, and people will start having the option to be paid in these currencies or what have you.
Yeah, I definitely see there's a big upside because you think about some of these numbers. You've got less than, I think there's about 1 million Bitcoin wallets that have more than one Bitcoin. That's it. And you also have less than 1%. It's probably maybe a little more, about 1%, let's say, of America are into cryptocurrency. And cryptocurrency is a global phenomenon. And we see how it's taking off now. So when the people in the supermarket hear about it, I challenge y'all out there. Go and ask a perfect stranger when next time you're at the supermarket with the cashier and you're, how you doing? Have a nice day. And you're striking up that normal conversation. Hey, have you heard of this Bitcoin? And a lot of them will not. And when they do, then Katie bar the door. So we're right now, like I say, early adapter. We're between innovation and early adapter. And people that ride this wave now are going to be financially secure. One thing I'd like to say is this transfer of wealth. Imagine this. People struggle. People live paycheck to paycheck. They get jobs they don't like. They're busy 8 hours a day with their brain doing busy work, whether it's flipping a burger or driving a taxi or whatever. Why? Because they need to make money, because they need to feed their loved ones and pay the rent. Now, what would happen if those people could free their minds, if they had enough financial security where they didn't have to work 8 hours a day, they could do something they wanted to. They could apply their brain power to something else, and there would be less stress. They would probably be, healthier, eating better anyway, and they would have more time to spend with their family. Now force multiplier times that by millions of Americans and people worldwide that suddenly have a financial freedom so that they can be basically more productive in their own way and not have to settle for something, not have to be forced into some sort of weird quasi-debt slavery where they got to keep going, commute every day to a job they don't like, and just come home and yell at the dog. No, that would free them. And that's how I see cryptos. I see it as something that's going to just level the playing field and bring back the middle class. Now, maybe I'm a little bit Pollyannish and delusional. I don't know. But I have a positive outlook. I'm going to continue to be an optimist.
I mean, I what you just said is my actual, all my effort and thought is toward that point, because I've been working for 33 years with in the transportation with truck driving, and I've graduated to the point where I have my own truck and I make more money. At the same time, the market collapses, the wages go down, the repair stuff goes up, and it's like, I'm just going like, I should have just stayed at Burger King and lived cheaper, and it would have been better off. But if you're going to try and make money, let's say in this idea, it seems like that right now, since it's in the beginning, is where the making money comes in, and then it will revert back to a service economy where you're going to either make a widget and someone will pay for it in a crypto, and there won't be an investment potential in the crypto itself once it levels out.
Yeah, and I see that this window of opportunity is opening now, and it'll probably be open for a couple of years, especially with the ICOs. We don't know what's going to happen with regulation. There's going to be scams. That's what I'm afraid of. There's going to be people out there that are going to scam. ICOs, initial coin offerings, where you have companies, they make a white paper that says, look, we're going to do this with blockchain technology, make our own little token. And I've seen ICOs make $10 million in 30 seconds. You don't have venture capitalists. You don't have to get a loan from a bank, nothing. You're just like, here's my white paper, send me Bitcoin, Ethereum, and I'll send you these tokens. They'll be trading on the exchange next year. We're going to have this thing next year, but we need to raise money. Boom, 30 seconds later, they've got $10 million. Okay, folks, let's go buy the Lamborghinis and the desk office chairs, and then they start their company. Now, 9 out of 10 of these companies, in my opinion, are probably not going to last 10 years. But one of them will, and it'll be like, Yahoo. It'll be like .com, boom, where you have everybody's pouring money into everything. I could just say, I've got whatever my business is .com, and, oh, sure, here's money. The venture capitalists came. And then, of course, you had the .com bubble. Out of that bubble, you got the Yahoos, you got the Googles, the Facebook, and a few big ones. With the ICOs, we have a much wider paradigm that's going to open up in the digital realm. We have now you're going to see things like pay-per-use. For example, you have your smartphone and it knows where you're at. And when, let's say you're in Amsterdam and you're walking around and you want to get on the tram and you want to take the tram across town, the moment you step on the tram, the GPS will know that you have just entered the tram. The system will talk to the network, and the blockchain will debit, you one token or whatnot, or however long, and it will know when you get off the tram, and that's the use you'll have. Or when you turn on your light switch at your office, electricity will be charged per, millisecond or per second, so that you will only pay for the amount of electricity that you use at the moment. We're going to go to a pay-per-use. You open your refrigerator door. When the light goes on, you pay for that electricity. Is that going to be a good thing or a bad thing? Will that be complete tracking of everything? See, it's a double-edged sword. With technology and automation and convenience, there is a price. This is sort of a tangent, but I often say, give me dangerous freedom over safe tyranny. Now, I'm not saying technology equates to tyranny, but again, it goes back to the honor of the person. We have already got in place a system. They have a big, huge warehouse in Utah where they're collecting metadata. So we already have a tracking system. We already have a surveillance system, an Orwellian police state, just ready. The technocracy is just ready to spring, right? And now we're going to introduce blockchain technology. Will it be good? Will it be bad? Will it free us or will it enslave us? I do not know.
Well, I mean, history would say it's going to be bad because, I had a audio book while I was driving. Oh, I don't know. It's many volumes. It's so huge, but it's the history of the world, right? And from the earliest recording history, and the entire point of the history of the world is, and then these guys took over those guys, and then these guys went over and took over those guys, and that's history. So it's like you put in any kind of technical advancement, first thing it is a weapon. Now comes blockchain, which came like outside of government. So it kind of came out from somewhere, and you got government greedily looking at it to see how we could hijack it, or replace it or what have you. I mean, I don't know if I'm being cynical. I like what you're saying, but we're talking about the first time in history like it didn't happen.
Yeah.
Well, I was kind of hoping you would come up with, no, it's going to happen because of this, and you didn't.
Well, it's an experiment, and the thing about the blockchain is it is apparently autonomous and trustless. So it detaches the human equation from it. Now, I see that partially as a good thing because we are fallible. We are dishonorable. Every problem that we have is a lack of honor. And because that's just a human equation, whether you want to say, oh, we're born in a sin or we're just greedy or whatnot, we just don't have that honor 100%. But a machine and a code, well, there's a quote that says the code is the law. And as long as the code is open for all to see and just that everybody agrees, like, okay, this is okay, we agree, then I see that as a good thing because now you take the honesty equation out of the picture. Now, there is the double-edged sword is the machine intelligence of the cold clinical calculation. If you fit within this category, you fit within this category. That's what the machine says. There is no room for human compassion in a system like that. There is no room for the human equation, which we do need. We have to temper the balance. While we have our faults as human beings and we can take advantage of and be corrupt and, do some horrible things. I mean, crimes against nature, my goodness. At the same time, we are human, and when we interact with each other, I think there needs to be human oversight. So maybe a happy medium where you have the blockchain technology that's there to facilitate the voting, to facilitate the money, to make sure that everything is honest, and you have a group of humans that are, fully transparent, supposedly, to watch over and make sure. As long, again, as everything's out in the open, then I think it's okay. But we do have to be careful with hidden agendas. The threat of artificial intelligence and the intelligence agencies doing nefarious things is very real. The black world, you were talking, I think, about all that missing money. Trillions and trillions of dollars that are just gone into what? What kind of crazy technology can they fund? Is it a breakaway civilization? Are they just going to leave and abandon us and leave us with a bunch of clones that are defective? I actually think sometimes when you see some of these people, these politicians and these movie stars, that the real version of them might actually be on a spaceship on their way out to Alpha Centauri, and we're looking at a defective clone. I mean, I say that with sort of a cynical attitude, but yeah. Anyway,
well, a lot of stuff is they're all falling apart. So the cloning thing could be strengthened by that. But let me get one more thing. We're getting kind of to the end here, and I wanted to get one more thing. People, I have it on the screen, and I'll share the link. But if you want to go out and see, well, just how many cryptocurrencies are there? It's like, holy Moses. And I'm scrolling down this list, and it got 1,339 on this list that I'm looking at.
Yeah, there's so many. Most of them, again, a lot of them now are tokens from the ICOs, what they're called ERC20 tokens. Some of the older ones are just coins that were created either, just for fun, or a lot of them they were specialty coins where they changed a little bit of the algorithm, but they never took off. And that's the thing, adaptation. What makes Bitcoin valuable? What makes cigarettes valuable in jail? It's just who decides that they're valuable is the populace. What makes comic books valuable? What makes anything valuable? If I decide to take my apples from my tree because I grow good apples and trade them for Mrs. Wilson's pies across the street, and then the guy down the street also likes pies, and Mrs. Wilson starts using her pies as currency on our block, well, that's just consensus, and that's what Bitcoin is based off of. And was born in the dark web, where the hackers, the spies, the thieves, the denizens of society, and the technos all saw this and went, okay, we can use this as money. And think about it for just a second. When you have hackers using something as money, it has to be secure. It's anti-fragile. So that means the more you attack it, the more strong, is that good English? The stronger it becomes, anti-fragile. So I see overall blockchain technology as a good thing. We do have to, again, temper it and watch out so that things don't sneak up on us. Again, smart contracts. You buy a car, you don't pay your bill, and the smart contract says, okay, across the network, the car is located here, turn off the vehicle ignition. And so these kind of things. So will we be tracked more? Well, that I think just goes along with the territory. We're already in the matrix. We're already in the system. You've got a social security number. You've got a credit card. You've got a bank account. We are in the system. We're just, driving shinier objects now and doing things a little bit differently.
All right. Can you toss out some cryptocurrencies that you kind of think people might be interested in?
Absolutely.
And we have, I'm looking at it now, and this Litecoin just took a big jump, which is nice.
Yes, I've been recommending Litecoin all along. I do have a show. It's called Crypto Corner, by the way, Mondays on freedomslips.com or revolution.radio. We have a schedule there. Come and say hi. Also, on Thursday nights at 5 p.m. Pacific time on Studio B. This week I'll have Archbishop Ron File of the International Order of Exorcists, who is on. He's coming back. Bitcoin definitely is a recommended coin. Get any portion you can. I do recommend Ethereum as well as Litecoin and Neo. Neo is interesting because it acts like Ethereum, except it's backed from Chinese. The Chinese are really into this. I have a feeling that Neo next year is really going to take off. The unique thing about Neo is it's proof of stake, which means that if you hold Neo, you basically get dividends. You get every so often a little bit of what's called gas, and gas can be traded on the exchanges as well. So as far as tokens, there is something that I've been looking at. I do know some of the developers, and it is called Titus Coin. You can actually go to titus.community/Mr. Rowe, all lowercase, titus.community/Mr. Rowe, MRRHO, and sign up for free. There's nothing you have to really do. Just sign up. And there's going to be Titus Coin is going to launch an exchange, pay-ins. They're also going to be used as a payment platform, as well as proof of stake. And they've got some other interesting incentives that are going to come along next year. So those are the ones that right now I'm looking at. Also, EOS is pretty good, and IOTA. IOTA uses a Tangle system, which is not blockchain. It's a proprietary type of system. It's a machine language. So that's the probably one of the blockchains that may be used to have your refrigerator talk to your toaster. I don't know. But
IOTA's jumped up 105% in the last 7 days.
Yeah, if you look at those percentages, especially the weak percentages, again, traditional cash equity markets, they have stopgaps at 5%. Look at those numbers.
Yeah.
43. This is the crypto world is absolutely a much more volatile, and that's why we're there, though. That's part of it. That's part of the fun, the volatility, the excitement, the adrenaline, and so that's how I look at it. Again, it's not for everybody, trading and all that. A lot of people, the best thing to do is just buy and hold. Here's a statement of fact: nobody that has ever bought Bitcoin and just held on to it has lost money. The best performing asset of the decade, bar none. Yeah.
Well, I for me personally, I'm looking at for the big long numbers. So you gave your little scenario about people been working for they wanted. That's exactly what I'm doing. And when I bought into Bitcoin, it was earlier this year on April. I said to myself, what could I do, whether it be from using my head or my hands, right back, that I could possibly get a large return in a short period of time, being 60 years old. I don't have a whole lot of, my 20 more years, and I'm going to have to start, or 10 years maybe, My grandfather died when he was 64. So I came up with the Bitcoin, and at this point, it's looking good. So I'm rooting. I'm rooting for my own purposes.
Yeah, and we all are.
Well, I appreciate you staying and talking with us about it. I'm glad we got a lot of information. Perhaps we can talk again. And sure. I will have hard links put down for your shows to make it easier for people to get to Revolution Radio with the dates and times. And right. I appreciate you just coming by and helping us out with this.
Well, thank you very much. And my pleasure. It was an honor to be on here, and I'll be glad to come back anytime. And might have to get you on my show as well.
All righty. Sure. Would love to do so. So take care. And I'm going to... We're going to go say hi to Les Visible here. He's going to have his weekly commentary. So thanks again, Mr. Rowe.
All right. Bye-bye.
There he is. And I do have, if I look at the guest, one you saw at screen, we have the Reality Extraction, which is Thursdays at 5 p.m. Pacific, Studio B, and Crypto Corner, which is Mondays at 1 p.m., I believe he said. It's Pacific. That's going to be Studio A, and where that is at Revolution Radio, which is the actual website address is freedomslips.com. And there you can, you poke around. You can see he's updating the website for the radio, so you have a choice of an older and newer. But you poke around, you can find these things. Just remember those times. And if you have an internet radio, I use XI Live. And once you can go search for Revolution Radio, and it'll come up with Studio A, Studio B, and you can click on them, and then you are actually saving it in your history on the player. And then all I have to do from now on is go to the player and hit either A or B, or whether it be InfoWars or some of the other things that I listen to when I'm driving. Gosh darn, I see a question that came in here, and I just noticed it. Gord. Well, I can't help you with this question, Gord, because as you hear, he's gone. So, I'll tell you what I'll do is I'll put this link up in the show there. It's with Harry S. Dent. It's an interview with him and so on. So I can put that up there. But that is what I'm looking at. We're at a point in time, in many ways, actually. But as far as this cryptos goes, the first time in history this has been here. We're using old ways to value it, and it's all going to be guesswork until we're it's the old wave function of infinite possibilities, and until you observe the reality of it, anybody's guess. So right now, I am inundated on my web feeds with the crypto bubble and all this stuff coming, and it could happen. It's just that for some people, this is an opportunity that you can try. And if you got in early on Bitcoin, and early meaning earlier this year, not like back in. I had a show with Harold White about Bitcoin. Never heard of it back in 2011, talking about it. Would that I had been able to buy some then. Well, I would have, because it was dollars. But anyway, even at this price, my personal opinion, I'm looking at it going into these 100,000 million range and being some kind of a backbone currency, and that you're going to have other things like, just like you mentioned, IOTA or Ripple or Litecoin as being easier denominations. And if you think about it, around the world, everyone's got their own currency. How many countries are there? How many currencies there are? So what this does is take the currency out of the locale and put it worldwide. So I'm glad he was here to talk about it and give the questions. And I'm glad he'll agree to come back because, I can have a million more questions, and I'm sure you could too. Probably what I'll do is I'll promote it a little ahead of time so people can, if nothing else, get their questions to me, and then I could do it. And, the thing I also want to mention is that you don't have to go to cryptocurrencies. Gold is fine. Jewels, barter, the problems are going to be the fiat currencies, because as these currencies vary because of how their governments control them or force them, or because, like, for example, if the dollar bill, the petrodollar, starts to lose across the world, that's going to be trouble for the dollar bill. So it's not that you must do this and it's going to go or die, and there's this argument, yes, no. It's an open system that you can get into. The people who are endangered by this would be the mainstream fiat currencies. You can also try and put their own out there. But the good thing about this, since this is out there first, now you have, let's call it a gold standard to go on as far as privacy, controllability, real market action and all this stuff versus the controls that they put on the fiat currency. And I want to mention also that, there's been these billion, this quantitative easing. I like that. I love how these guys come up with, the Affordable Care Act, Health Care Act, all these fancy names, which, but quantitative easing meant they were printing dollars. What they weren't actually printing dollars. You didn't get any of the money. The money went to the banks who have big red black hole in the center of their banks. And so, like, if you want to take money out of the bank, It's you have your money in the bank, and you go to the bank and say, I want to take out $1,000. That $1,000 came from for all practical purposes, came from the quantitative easing that they got, recently. The fluidity is what they're doing, keeping money in the market. And so that's why you haven't seen great, in my opinion, that's why you haven't seen great inflation, because the money wasn't like they gave us the government turned around and printed and gave everybody $5,000, or $10,000. And they went to everybody and they went out and spent it. There's where your prices go up. The traditional inflation. What we have now is all that money going into a black hole to try and keep the banks open. So, again, I want to refer you to the work that Lionel Parkinson has done and how you can prepare by taking, I call it insurance, against a crash. No matter how good the market looks, you just saw what happened the other day when they came out with those false stories, and it made it look like Trump was going to be testified against. And in other words, they had some actual bullets in their guns instead of all this fluff they have. The market tanked 350 points. So if Trump does get pulled out or shot, heaven forbid, or all that stuff, if something that major happens, holy cow, a Korean war with Korea, I don't think it will happen. But I'm saying if it did, that market will drop like a stone. And there's ways you can protect yourself from that as well. And Lionel has some very low-cost things. Nothing to do with him. He's just found it and he was sharing it. So there's many ways to do this. And again, I recommend keeping cash in the house, because if there is a bank holiday, and there has been on the world already, cash is going to be king. Because when you go down to Walmart to buy something and you don't have a credit card or your debit card and the ATMs are all run dry, cash will be king. So there's many different methods here. And I agree with Mr. Rowe when he says about that diversity factor, having gold. Gold will, when you go through the fire and come out the other side, gold will be worth something. Your dollar bill might not, or it'll be worth a quarter or a half or a tenth, but it will be worth something. And these cryptos do offer another option. Brand new, untested. We're testing it now. The up and down, the volatility, the hardware wallets, how can we get the hackers and all this stuff? These are all tests and seeing if it can pass. And ingenuity usually does come up with answers, and especially if it's a free market one. So I'm going to stop there. Let's see if I'm looking in the chat room. Yeah, I also mentioned, I used to start King Midas, is that we all get down to it. If things get bad enough, you can't eat gold, but you can eat potatoes. So you better hope somebody's selling potatoes will buy your gold or your dollar or your crypto or whatever, because food, shelter, and clothing. But see, we haven't got down to that. People were in the Depression. They're dying off now. People were in the Great Depression. They cooked, they canned food goods. I know a buddy of mine, when his mother took ill and died, he had, for like a year, he had canned food that she had done. It's just built in their system to prepare. So anyway, let me stop John here and get to Les. It's getting a little late here, and I got to get the ball rolling here and get back out in the mill grind tomorrow.
Greetings, my friends, and welcome in this Christmas season to Dog Poet Transmitting and the Saucer Pod. Welcome to your central clearinghouse for all the affections and good wishes extended to you by the Arcturian Brotherhood and the Sirius Cluster, where I hope to be on an extended sabbatical, Saturnal, or what have you, as long as it's extended. I'm hoping for a one-way ticket at this point. I haven't decided whether or not to go there in my present body. As you probably know, or maybe you don't know, you can be rendered physically immortal in this body. Yeah, it happens to some people. Doesn't happen often, but it does happen. It's simply molecules arranged, isn't it? And there are some who can disintegrate and reintegrate those molecules at will. Yes, indeed, my friends, there are. So when I say I haven't made up my mind yet about taking it or leaving it, well, I haven't. Not saying that I'm in a position to do any of that, but I'm just saying that, there are people who can. And, well, the only real difference would be it's a lot quicker without my body in terms of getting there. Now, it is, according to certain laws of physics. I love Christmas. I love Easter. I love all the elements of the everlasting story of the Lord Jesus Christ. I'm not overly fond of the larger portion of Christians or of Christianity in its dogmatic or cant-filled sense. But I am fond of Jesus Christ. It is a story of the liberation of humanity from the darkness of the prisons of ignorance, which is all that sin really is, simply said another way. My life has been very strange. When I had my Kundalini experience, I ceased to exist anymore in the hearts and minds of my blood family, if you want to call it that, mother and father, siblings. It was uncanny. Everything was sucked out of me when it happened, and therefore a lot of the identifying markers disappeared as well. The same thing has come to be more and more the case dealing with religious people. They'll cross the street to avoid me for some reason. In some ways, I've become invisible. I seem to go in and out of focus with the world around me, but anything I need, and often even what I want, is there now. It was never like this before. There were long periods when nothing went right, as if I was in a possession of one of the longest losing streaks in history. And almost like my picture was in the encyclopedia next to the relevant article about misfortune. Now, it's eerie indeed. As I have managed to come into a state of greater well-being, my donations have almost ceased to occur. I don't know what to make of it. I am not rich by any means, of course. Please, if you're thinking of donating, don't hesitate. But, well, I am rich spiritually. I think I am. But at least I'm not on the nervous edge of potential calamity anymore. Let me get my focus back here a little better. There we go. I have to be able to see myself even though I don't look. Doesn't make any sense, does it? I don't know what to make of life anymore. I'm just here, and pretty much always here, right in this moment, which looks like it stretches forever. And it does, I think. I've no longer any idea why I'm here, and I don't think I ever did. I just gave myself reasons that seemed to fit. But sometimes now I feel like a tree, growing out there in the weather. The sun shines on my leaves. Sometimes it rains. Night comes and the moon glows and I can sense its radiance without actually seeing it. The days go by and nothing happens. It's a long dream interspersed with shades of darkness and periods of light. I know there's more than this, but what? I don't want to depress you. I'm not depressed. I simply don't know what to think about any of it anymore. Perhaps thinking is the problem in the first place. I'm learning, slowly, of course, but I'm learning. If the ineffable is beyond comprehension and description, then what is the point of attempting to comprehend or describe it? Which would, of course, involve the mind, would it not? So, you know what? I keep my mind empty Yes, indeed, I do. That is one of the disciplines that I am rigorous concerning. I cast out all thoughts. My mind becomes an empty room. My heart is full, but my mind is empty. And at some point, I think my heart should swallow my mind. It's a thought. It's almost always empty, my mind is, and that is so that transmissions have a place to come to. These transmissions that I deal with. It is so I can stand there in an empty room and wait for them. This is the poetry and beauty of there being a God. And my friends, there most assuredly is a God. When you know God is real, you can literally wait on God to appear, knowing that God will appear. And if you're not getting that, then reach deeper and try harder. And if you're not getting that, reach deeper and try harder. And if you're not getting that, reach deeper and try harder. Am I repeating myself? Yeah. And if you don't do this, that tells the ineffable all he needs to know about you. Because the ineffable is watching all the time, okay? And if we become truly watchful ourselves, there comes a time when we can experience the ineffable watching through our eyes. Yes, indeed. That is how it is. What other eyes or hands or ears or hearts does the ineffable have? Except for ours or whatever living entities there are, because the ineffable lives in all of us, okay? And experiences life in and through all of us. Whether we are in a coma or a deep sleep or a dream or partially aware or more than partially aware, or very, very much awake, the ineffable celebrates that state of consciousness within us. Yeah. And as I tried to say in today's post at Visible Origami, you should be joyful right now, especially with the approach of Christmas, because if Christ is not awake and alive in you at this moment, then that experience awaits you. Wow! Right? That means you got that to look forward to, and that means because God is real and because God came here in the person of Jesus Christ for that very reason, to get your attention, did it for you personally, and will not rest until he has achieved this in you, well then, what does that tell you? Reach deeper and try harder. Yeah, that's right. The ineffable is right there, reaching for you. You keep reaching the ineffable. It's like that painting by Michelangelo on the Sistine Chapel. I also used a variation of it in one of my albums. The hand is, Adam and God, and oh well, it does tell you something if you're looking to see what it's telling you. You see, there's evidence all around of the presence and existence of God. Oh yeah, for sure there is. But if we're not looking for it, attentive to it, or even care, we're not going to see it. It's only there for those who, I guess, have an interest. Good work, Visible. Well, I guess I'm not perfect. Yeah, all right, I kind of knew that. It's all God, my friends. Once you get that, the hard part is over. Because once you get that, nothing is hard anymore. It's all a joy. Merry Christmas, my dear friends. Merry Christmas. Okay, we've come to the end of the broadcast, and I will see you next week. Oh, no, you will see me, if there is one. That said, Merry, Merry Christmas, and knock, knock, wake up. Knock, knock, wake up, wake up. Repeat, rinse, rinse, repeat. Okay. Hare Krishna. Micham Anbu Guru Bawa. Bismillah Irrahman Irrahim. Much love, Lady Nature. Greetings, my dear friend, Lord Ganesh. Hail, Lord Jesus Christ. Much love, Lady Nature. Carry on, Bahula. Aloha and Aru. Sorry I ran a little late, James. God bless you and Merry Christmas to you too.